Hi, everyone. So while he was introducing me as a person from Seattle, I actually have spent the last 30 years in Oregon and learned all about my angel investing activities through the program where I met Angela several years ago. So I'm actually a cloaked Oregonian up in Seattle working on the process of building out the Northwest ecosystem. So I'd love to spend some time talking with you about that process. So specifically, I worry about the ecosystem process. How do we get the pieces of the system to go? And I was an economic development director in Corvallis, Oregon for a while, and so spent some time explicitly thinking about that and drawing pictures. So in the ecosystem, what I mean is there's many different pieces to the system. We want to start with outreach, trying to find people, so you need to have resources like open coffees that help you find people. You get the people into the system and groom them a little bit, like Portland Seed is facilitating their growth. We have funding. They go to funding. You're probably having a little problem seeing the arrows, but there's this lovely circle there. From funding, we get them to an acceleration and drive them forward, hopefully to produce clusters, which then evaporate employees, which then create new businesses. And sometimes they get stranded, and they need to have someone advocate for them and get them around the sharp rocks. Or sometimes you actually have to build infrastructure and change the rules of the playing field so that they go. And one of the ways to do that is spend some time mapping the system. So in Oregon, nobody knows about what's going on in Corvallis, so I put it on a map. All the ones that are blue are from HP spinouts. All the ones in orange are from OSU spinouts. All the green ones don't talk to either one. So we have 120 or 130 in a town of 50,000. So we're doing some interesting things, and people could tell that story because they could see the relationship between the entities. And we don't want to just do that for the tech sector. We want to do that for non-tech sector too. So this is telling the story of the wine industry in the county I was in, from the basic things that you need to get the farm going all the way to selling the wine at the other end. If we didn't have the 16 wineries doing the winery stuff, none of those people would be doing any business at all. And so by telling that story out loud, especially in pictures, it's really useful. But we want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey, about how entrepreneurs do what they do and get them going. And there's a lot of companies that go off to do things as companies that are not investables, non-growth oriented companies, and that's fine. But the thing that transforms the world is these growth companies that take one kind of business and turn it into another business, and everybody in the world changes their behavior. And so now we get an exponential growth, and now we get the possibility for angel investing. So through that, the entrepreneur journey, going from I have an idea to I have a really effective business to I have a really big business. Startup Weekend spends a lot of time working on that, and I like that. But I wanted to understand what is the funding side of that. In that little funding part, somewhere in the life cycle of a business, there are places where you can't get to where you expect to go without outside money. And this is a course that I would love to teach sometime. If you have questions about it, let me know. So in the outside investing stage, where do you get going? So everybody talks about VCs. I want to separate angel investing, people who are investing their own money, from VCs who are investing somebody else's money. And so early on, once you've got the business up and going, there's an appropriate place to put a few $100,000 into a business and make it go. Who's providing that money in your ecosystem, and how does that work? And as we look at that, we find that it's kind of difficult because everybody looks for everybody that has a lot of money. So I run a thing called the Seattle Angel Conference. I want to talk about the structure of that. The goal of it is to create new angel investors. So people who can invest $5,000, we charge $5,500 to participate. $5,000 goes into the fund. We get 20 to 40 investors who form a group together, an investment group. We get 20 to 60 companies to apply to the process. We filter them for 10 weeks, every week meeting, going through, listening to pitches, having feedback sessions, trying to understand what's going on. And in the end, all that we're doing is essentially one single investment for somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. But at the end of the day, at the final event, we have 6 companies to present. They've had deep due diligence. Out of that due diligence, the companies have learned a lot about themselves, the angels have learned a lot about themselves, and somebody gets funded. Along the way, we run workshops to try and train them and get them in the right vocabulary so everybody's speaking the same language. We spent a little time at the final event telling the story about what is this angel investing thing. We have the company stand up and pitch, tell their story as though they were making a pitch for money, which they are, but we've already heard it 3 or 4 times, and so we pretty much know what we want, although frequently we're surprised by what's presented on stage, usually in a good way, not always. The due diligence teams, the due diligence leader responds, telling all the things, so the company said what they said, the due diligence team responds with what they heard, and we get to see the process out in the open for how to do an investment. We go through the detailed program of all the companies that applied, so everybody who's in the audience, hopefully an audience of 250 people or so. So we're trying to tell the story to the wider audience that it's possible to be an investor in a company. In Seattle, we have about 66,000 people who could be angel investors. In the United States, it's required that you meet certain financial capacity before you're allowed to invest in unregistered stocks. You have an amazing opportunity here where you don't have that restriction, so people who are not in the same financial level are still able to invest in non-registered stocks. So that's an advantage that you really should spend some time thinking about. You also have First North, I learned yesterday, which is amazing. We don't have anything like that in the United States. So that's really an advantage too. And then at the end of the day, we select an investment and we place the money. So we know what the amount of the investment is. We know when we're going to make the investment, and we have no clue about who we're going to invest in 10 weeks earlier. And we go through and make the decision and make it go. This allows people who are capable of investing $5,000 to be invested into a company in a reasonable way. And like people are saying, you want to make sure that you understand angel investing is something where you are most likely to lose money. But if you do the right things in the right order, there's a chance that you'll make a lot. So let's talk a little bit about that. Normally what we say is 30% of investments lose all of your money, 30% lose some of your money, 30% make you a little money, and 10% make a lot of money. And here's a little more detail about that. So almost 60% of the deals are going to lose money, but some of them are going to give you a little money, and then some of them are going to give you a lot of money. And specifically looking at returns, let me back up. This has got data from 15,000 data points from Rob Wilbank at Willamette University, and he compared both UK and US to understand if there was a pattern here, and it looks like we're seeing very similar structures in terms of the investment returns. And so we begin to believe that this is a pattern that's repeatable. So in terms of the returns, in terms of the amount of dollars, the ones that lost some money didn't give you very much back at all, but the ones that gave you a little bit of money actually gave you 30% of the total money returned, and those that gave you a lot of money gave you 50%. So the things that are over 10x give you almost 90% of the money in the system. This isn't just about angels getting money back from returns, it's also about changing your economy. So I've got some slides out of order, and so this makes a little less sense. But if we were to look at Oregon, Angel Oregon is the first of these angel conferences. It's the one that I'm copying and using in Seattle. So even though we've done the angel conference in Seattle for only a year and a half, we have almost a decade of data from Oregon. So if you took every finalist presented at every Angel Oregon event and you treated them like a portfolio and you looked at what was going on, that group of companies is currently producing, over the last decade, they've accumulated $84 million in revenue, and in the last year they're up 47% from where they were the year before. They've got 535 people that are working in those companies. They've got revenue per employee, so a productivity of $150,000 per person. And we've raised almost $88 million total over that decade in terms of funding these companies. So a few people get together and they put $5,000 a piece into this thing. And of that, the total behavior of the group of finalists is a significant economic impact. But it's also good for the investors. So I want you to look at the last column. The last column is the Angel Investor Performance Project, which is looking at all of the investments for all of the investors that they could get their hands on from angel groups across the United States. And on average, out of that group, people who are angel investors are seeing a 2.6 times return on their money. So you put the money in, you wait until it's done, which is 6 to 12 years, and then you get 2.6 on average back. And then if you look at the details of this across those different years, oh, I got to go back for a second. So more than half of them are losing you money. The ones that lose you money take less time to lose the money than it does for the ones that make you money. So early on, you see your losses, and then later on, you get more money back. And 10% of these exits will produce most of the money that comes back. So you have to be looking at a broad diversity. So if you look at all of the things in the portfolio before 2006, they're giving us 1.9 times your money back out of that cohort. And as you get closer and closer to the present, they're giving less back, but that means that you're losing all of your infant death early, and that we would expect that we would see more like 1.9 as they mature. So there's some reasonable amounts of revenue that are coming back to the people that are making this investment. So I think there are 5 types of angel groups. Angel networks are the socialize people and invest if you want to kind of thing. That's 98% of what people do with angel investing. I don't think it goes far enough, and so I'm working on other pieces. There are managed angel funds like Founders Co-op in Seattle that I think are particularly interesting, that act like VCs in the sense that they have general partners that make the decision rapidly with limited partners that are angels. There are passive funds where you can put your money in and you just agree to follow someone else. An important side note, the Oregon Angel Fund uses a thing called the Oregon Growth Account, which takes pension money from the state employees and matches as a passive investor against all of the angel conferences and including the Oregon Angel Fund. So that's a very interesting way that the Oregon government is actually supporting angel investing by matching each of the investment. And if they're doing that, they're not doing this because they're giving us grants. They're doing this because they're making an investment with their pension funds to make their pension funds better. And the side effect is that we're doing better angel investing too. We have active angel funds like the Oregon Angel Fund, which is like the Angel Conference except bigger. $25,000 apiece, 60 investors, raise a $5 million fund each year. And out of that, we're seeing very comparable results, but multiplied by 5 in terms of the size of the process. They're also investing a little bit later than the Angel Conference is. And so in that process, they're actually getting lower risk companies that are producing a little bit better results. And then this angel conference, which is the dip your toe in the market. So do you know, if you would like to be an angel investor, how much it would take for you to do that? Well, I can in 10 weeks, $5,000. We can find out whether you like this or not. And if you like it, we can find a way for you to be good at it so that you don't do the typical thing, which is you have a little money, your friends ask you for the opportunity, you give them a bunch of money, they waste it, your friendship goes away, the money goes away, and you say, I don't want to invest anymore. That's the story we're trying to kill. We don't want that to happen. We want people to understand that you can invest well by doing due diligence. That improves your chances. Invest what you know into the industries you know. That improves your chances. Invest with other people that see it from different perspective and get engaged in the companies so that makes that go. All of those things build a more robust network, build more robust ecosystem. And the slide that Ted showed of the connections, it really grows when you do this angel investing. So I believe that there's a bunch of resources here in Iceland that would allow you to do the angel conference kind of model very well, where you could bring in a class of investment, which I'm not seeing a lot of here. And so if there's a conversation that would be useful with that, I'm quite available. So there are 5 cities in Oregon that are doing this: Portland, Bend, Corvallis, Eugene. I founded that one 5 years ago. The Gorge, Medford, and now I've got one in Seattle. So I'm just following a model that the Oregon Entrepreneur Network put together. It seems to be working pretty well, but these are the only ones that I can find in the United States. I haven't found these anywhere else. And so you have an opportunity to see a process that's just in the beginning of blooming across the Northwest. Thanks very much.